Hi, I'm Talicza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
Crime. So close.
Coming from you live from my bed.
Yeah, mine. Well, actually, my childhood bed.
Aw.
Like, I'm at my parents again. Fucking always there at the moment.
Has your bedroom changed a lot since you moved out?
Oh, yeah, completely. Yeah, it's not the same
Okay.
at all. And plus, I was like one of these, like, I'm going to put all my paintings on the wall. And I was like that when I was a kid. Yeah, it's really embarrassing thinking back.
Did you have any posters? Who
No.
was it at the time?
Oh, it would have been like Brandon Boyd from Incubus. That would have been like a topless Brandon Boyd, or a Blink-182.
Okay, yeah.
Or an Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
The posters that you got from like NME magazine.
Right. I was thinking more like poppy, like Blue or like S Club
Oh, no.
7.
Oh my God, I wouldn't be caught dead with that on my wall. I was far too up my own arse for that. Why, what about you? What was your teen bedroom like?
Yeah, I was really emo, so same,
Yeah.
like lots of art.
That I'd done myself.
Yeah.
God. And I thought it was so good as well.
Yeah.
I was genuinely like, God, I'm good. You are good at art though, because I've seen your paintings now and they're really good.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right.
Both my parents are artists, so I attribute it to that. But I was
Aw.
also very religious up until I left home. So I had a lot of like,
you?
yeah, like Catholic statues and things like that.
I kind of imagine you as a bit of a teenage rebel.
I was towards the end, right before I moved out. But up until then, I think it was also like I was too scared to put up stuff. If I put up a Blink-182 poster up, my parents would be like, "What's that?" You know.
I heard my boss said that his parents wouldn't let him have the Alanis Morissette album because it had like a parental advisory sticker on it.
Oh yeah,
Jagged Little Pill.
my parents were totally like that. Yeah.
Really? Oh, we've discussed
Yeah,
this
remember
before.
I don't know if you had Jewel over there, but I remember that was one of
Yeah,
my
I
first
loved her.
CDs. Yeah, one of my first CDs that I bought, and I had to return it because my parents listened to it,
Oh my
and there was
God.
like one line somewhere
That
that
is the most
wasn't
tame.
appropriate. Yeah.
Was it the album? She's got like a famous album that is like her biggest one.
I mean, I'm sure
Was it that
it was her
one?
biggest one. Yeah.
Was it like the Let's Go Back to Bed song? Because she's got a song on there that's like, let's go back to bed. Like about basically fucking your boyfriend on your day off.
It probably was. I
was
think there was
probably
also like one where she's talking about like she mentions like a hand job or something like that. I think that was probably it.
I think I missed that lyric.
Her most popular album was Pieces of You. So it
Yeah,
was
I
probably
loved
that
it.
one.
Oh, I loved
Yeah.
that album. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
know, it was really funny. Carly's dad got me into that album.
What?
Carly's
Okay.
dad, when we were kids, was like, you like acoustic music, you'll like this album. And he was the one that
Aw.
showed me Jewel. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have ever known about it, I don't think.
That's so nice.
I know. He's dead now, bless his heart. Bless his soul.
Aw.
Yeah, let's
Aw.
pour one out for Kev.
Yes.
Yeah, he had great taste in music. A lot of like Paul Weller and stuff.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, it was good.
Before we move on, I just want to address that I sound different.
You don't sound that different. Like it's not
I'm
not
very
that bad.
self-conscious of it.
Babe, you sound fine.
Thanks. But I want to tell our listeners I just had fast forward if you don't like gross stuff, but
Oh, it's not that gross.
well, it was painful, but I had like the metal thing screwed to the roof of my mouth, and it's still there now, and it will be for the next 6 to 9 months.
I want a really good look at it.
Do you want to see it right now?
Yeah. Dude, I had my jaws like broken and like screwed back together. Oh, yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Cool. That
I'll
looks
send you a
pretty serious.
picture.
Yeah.
I had to take pictures of it for my orthodontist to like give like a weekly update.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
bet.
It's so hard to take pictures of inside of your mouth.
You need someone to do that for you, like hugely.
Yeah.
That's like trying to take a picture of your own arse. Like really difficult. Exactly. not saying it for experience or anything.
Well, yeah, it took me about 45 minutes to take like different angles of it, but I'll send you a picture of a successful one.
Yeah, is it still hurting now or is it a bit more comfortable?
It hurts. Yeah, it still hurts.
Oh, man,
so
I feel so bad for you.
It's okay. It's the first week last week was the worst, but I'm getting used to it, and obviously you can tell it's here and it'll be here.
Well, do you want to explain what it's for? Because otherwise it's just like a torture device for no reason.
No, I just did it for fun.
Just fancied it.
Yeah. I just felt like getting 8 shots of Novocaine in the roof of my mouth, and
cool.
Yeah.
I'd have a bit of that anyway.
That was the worst part. But no, it's for I have like a weird crossbite, and it was affecting my sleeping because it was affecting like my nasal passage, and then it was also my chewing was getting worse, so it was getting really annoying to chew. So this procedure is called the Marpe Procedure,
which sounds really classy.
Which yeah, it does. Oh, I just had Marpe.
Have you not had Marpe?
Yeah. But it clamps to your teeth, and every night you have to take like a mini wrench, and it pushes out your teeth so your jaw like spreads open more. Yeah, it expands it, and pretty soon I'll have a gap front tooth or front teeth. Yeah.
You're gonna be like that model, like I don't remember her name. I just see her everywhere.
Yeah, it was like popular in the 90s too. A lot of models had gap teeth.
Gap teeth, yeah, they did, yeah.
But then so that happens, and then the metal thing gets taken out after 6 to 9 months, hopefully 6 months. And then I do Invisalign and straighten all my teeth up, and hopefully I can sleep better and eat better.
It's annoying because your teeth look perfect.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like, but aesthetically, like you've got really straight teeth, but I guess they're just positioned wrong. So
it's just the back teeth that are all out of whack. So I have to do this. You gotta do what you gotta do, and sound weird. So I apologize to listeners, and if you don't like it, then you can turn us off.
That's like as bad as you get. If you don't like it, then turn it off. I'd be like, if you don't like it, fuck you.
Yeah.
So you're lucky I'm not having any dental procedures.
You've had much worse than me. So you've been there.
Yeah, I've been there, and I sympathize with you. It's fucking irritating because when it's in your mouth you can't stop like tonguing it. Like it affects the way you talk, and then you feel conscious about that, and it's like uncomfortable, and you're worried about like brushing your teeth or like getting food in it. It's just a fucking annoying all round. But one thing I will say is you quickly get used to it. Like when it's gone, you will feel weird all over again. You'll be like, what?
I'm so excited for that day though.
Yeah. Well, I have some medical news as well. So I'm basically, I'm switching my antidepressants. I'm basically switching to like, so there's 2 types of antidepressants. There's SSRIs and there's SSNIs. And I can't pronounce the N word in the acronym. Like it's fucking like weird and long. But basically one of them, SSRIs, which I'm on right now, is sertraline, and that stops like depression. Like it stops you. Basically, that makes makes you have more serotonin in your brain.
Right.
And I've just been like having really bad panic attacks like recently. And it's not about relationships because like my relationship is fine. So I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like there has to be a better way. So
Yeah.
I'm changing my medication, but it means that I have to like taper off the old one to go onto the new one.
Right.
Because the new one is
going to be a little weird.
Yeah, it's like specifically for anxiety. So I could have used that news like fucking 3 years ago, but still.
Yeah.
So I have to like taper off the sertraline and then go on to the new one. But I don't know if you've ever taken MDMA or drugs that release loads of fucking serotonin at once, but you get that like high, like tingly feeling. When you take different mental health drugs, you get that feeling. So I keep getting like waves of like tingle and like lightheadedness and like
everything's great.
I feel really weird and high.
Yeah.
But like I'm just like so over my festival days that I'm like, this is fucking bizarre.
Maybe you need to go to a festival and you'll be like, okay, this is like I'm in the right setting now. And then it'll help you like enter into it. Yes, this feels right and I can move forward.
Just watching The Sopranos and I was like, I feel high. This is horrible. That's my medical news. Keep you updated.
Well, I'm glad that you're figuring it out. It's so hard.
I hear like loads of horror stories that are like, oh my god, switching mental health meds is fucking horrible. Like I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I was like, well, what have I got to lose? Really?
You gotta try something, right?
If I feel like shit now, okay, I'll feel like a little bit more like shit for a bit, and then I'll feel way better. So like you have to, or I could just feel like shit forever. So it's like, I have to you have to weigh it up, don't you? But yeah,
exactly.
Ugh, and then some people pipe up and they're like, have you tried CBT? I'm like, I've tried everything. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Right. We better get in because mine's quite long.
Okay. I just wanted to, since it's been a while since we recorded and a couple of true crime things have happened that we mentioned.
Yes. Because we were discussing Gabby, weren't we?
Yes. And that's what I wanted to bring up. Yeah. They found her body, obviously, if you're following it, and they think that she was murdered, and he's still missing. And that's it.
That's like all the details, right? Like they're not giving anything away. Did they say she was strangled?
Let me double check. Let me check really quick. See if there's been any updates since then. Time and environmental factors are complicating the search for Brian. So they're really cracking down on looking for him.
Did you see that Dog the Bounty Hunter was getting involved in looking for him?
Yes.
I am so into that. Yes.
Me too.
That's what he should be used for.
Yes.
I can't wait for that fucking mulleted god to march that cunt out of the woods.
Yes. New details have emerged of a reported domestic. This is from 1 day ago.
Oh, okay. I heard that they had a waitress spoke to a newspaper saying she witnessed them having an argument in one of the restaurants like they visited along the way. Apparently he was being really, really aggressive and really rude to the waiters, and then Gabby came back in and was like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
And that was reported.
That's sad.
That's the last thing I heard.
So this is new. New details this is from CNN. New details have emerged of a reported domestic dispute between Gabby and her fiancé while traveling through Utah, as additional body cam footage from a responding officer. So there's more body cam footage.
Another police incident as well. Not even just like a lover's tiff.
Yeah.
A fucking domestic enough for police to come out again.
Right.
Like
it
fucking
said
hell.
The incident in Moab, Utah came about 2 weeks before Petito last communicated with her family. So it might be connected with the waitress, because it said a call from a witness told dispatch that there was a domestic dispute. They were like fighting over their phone or one of their phones.
Oh my god, like Dude, if the
And
police have to be called more than once on your trip, you're probably
it's
not in a
so
good relationship.
no, and it's so tricky too because they were in different states, even different towns. So
Yeah.
it's not like you could keep track as a police department like, oh, this is happening again.
No, of course not.
Um,
They could have an argument in every single state and it wouldn't matter. They're not going
right.
to
No
put
one would
two and two
know.
together. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah, so
I think he might have killed himself, this guy, you know.
I really uh
I've got a feeling he's killed himself.
do you think so? I think if he killed himself, they would know by now. They would have found him. Because
You think?
you can't yeah, it's hard to hide a dead body after a while, especially when everyone's looking for you and your
Yeah.
family is covering for you. If he killed
Probably, yeah.
himself or if he died, his family, I think, would be a little bit more, probably would have told police by now.
Yeah, maybe. I heard some very vague rumor about like his phone pinging in Puerto Rico, but that could just be gossip. But I also
Yeah.
saw a really funny thing on TikTok. This guy was like, "Hey, I'm just like traveling around, and guess who I look exactly like?" And then it was like that
No.
Brian guy. Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man.
He's like the spitting image of him, and he was like, the amount of times I've been stopped.
Oh man, that reminds me of I read this article a couple of years ago. This guy looks exactly like Shia LaBeouf, and some guy
Oh,
just came up to
no.
him and punched him in the face.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
God.
yeah, so like Shia LaBeouf like called this guy and was like, "I'm really sorry." But it reminds me of that. Like, it sucks if you look like somebody who's like an asshole.
Dude, grow a massive beard, wear a wig,
Yeah,
just do something.
Dye
Do
your hair.
something.
Yeah.
Do anything. Do
Right.
not walk around looking like that piece of shit.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Okay.
Okay.
Also, in the UK side of things,
Yeah.
the story about Sarah Everard.
Yes.
She was like a 33-year-old woman, and she was walking home from her friends in Clapham and in London, and it was 9:30, and the trial now has happened. It was really quick. From her being killed until him being put away was 7 months.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly quick trial.
I mean, great.
Yeah, but the thing is, he was a police officer, so he like really had to be made an example of. And he handcuffed her and told her she was being arrested for breaking COVID rules.
Yeah.
So that's how he got her in the car.
Which is terrifying.
And fucking hideous. And he's been given a whole life sentence, which is quite rare in England. So he's never, ever getting out of prison.
Good.
Good.
It makes you wonder what else he's done. This can't have been the first thing that he's done.
He had some indecent exposure charges that were flying around.
Why is he on the force? Why is he a police officer?
Good question, Rachel. And a question that the news outlets in England have been asking quite regularly.
Yes.
They're basically like the head of the police has been told that she needs to resign. It's not fucking good. And some arsehole MP has come out and been like, women need to check the law and make sure they know when they can be arrested. Oh, really? How about don't rape? How about don't rape people? I have to research, do I? I have to do my research.
I have to know your job. I have to know what your job is. Do you know what my job is? Do you know all the details of my job? No, you do not.
Yeah, exactly. You need to fucking research marketing so that I don't market you to death.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Hey, I'm documentary film over here. You really have to know your rights when I come to you.
Kidnap you and rape you. Like, what? He was like, I regret my comments and I detract them. I'm sure you fucking do.
Sure.
Because you're actually an MP for fucking Yorkshire. I can't remember his name now, but he's an absolute knob.
It's so frustrating, but it's also kind of satisfying when here in this country, because of all the problems with the police, when you see videos of like people standing up for themselves, being like, you can't arrest me here. I'm just standing here. You can't take my name. You can't, when someone tells a police officer what they're not allowed to do, even though the police officer is trying to do it, it's very satisfying. But it's also like, I don't want to have to study the law so that I can talk to a police officer. I want to feel safe with a police officer. That's it.
It's part of, I was explaining to like Tom this morning, like it's not, obviously it is an issue about police, but like this is a rare incident in which a policeman has taken advantage of his position and attacked a woman as a result of it. But actually the point is that we live in a patriarchal society where women are objectified, we are seen as lesser, we're seen as weaker, we're seen as objects of sexual gratification, where if you want something, you can just fucking take it.
Right.
And, obviously women are socialized not to be, in air quotes, rude.
Right.
Well, the thing is, like, even if you tell the man to fuck off, they could just punch you in the face or...
Yeah.
It's like we are physically in danger when it comes to men. So it's more a symptom of society than it is of not being able to trust the police. Right. It doesn't make me not... I was like, it doesn't make me not trust police. It makes me not trust all men that I don't fucking know that well, And that's... But I've always been that way. It's not different.
Definitely.
Although, having said that, if a policeman came up to me, I would trust them more than a random man that came up.
That's true. Yeah.
So there is that aspect of it as well.
Right. That's what I mean, though, about... I just think police forces everywhere kind of need to have a reckoning and big changes, because it just seems to be that there's people who become police officers for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, you'll always
because
get those
they
people,
can bully people, and I mean, you'll get those people in every profession, but specifically with police, I feel like you should be extra careful when you're vetting people.
They knew he had committed indecent exposure and he was still fucking working. Like, that's absolutely unacceptable. Even if he steals a chocolate bar from a shop, he should not be working as a police officer. It is your responsibility to follow the law to the letter.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's the fucking Met's job. So get on with it, yeah?
Yeah. That's our true crime news for this week.
That truly is. Okay, so our theme this week is something to make you feel lovely and safe: home invasions.
Yay!
I've been finishing off this story on my own in the house, and I was like, I should be spooked out because this is a fucking horrible story. And then I was like, nope, still don't care. so desensitized to true crime. I'm like, nah, it won't happen.
Yeah. I actually have a friend who it happened to her.
That's horrifying.
It is, and her story is horrifying. And it was a man who was on drugs, so he didn't even know what he was doing.
Oh, Christ.
And he broke into her apartment. It was an apartment in the middle of the night, and was trying to like come at her. What he was trying to do, he was trying to say like, "Help me! I'm seeing things," or I'm on drugs.
Hallucinating.
I need help. Yes. But obviously she just woke up. It was 2 a.m.
That doesn't come across like
no,
as it should.
A big man coming at you, and
oh my God,
she had to
I'd
like
never sleep again.
Yeah, it was a horrible experience, but she's an awesome person, and it just kind of, it really makes you think like, what would you do in the moment?
I would probably soil myself and then think of a better plan.
Yeah. And she told me that she was proud of herself because it's like, you don't know until that split second what exactly you're going to do. She ended up like running into the bathroom and shutting the door, and he was trying to get in. Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was trying to get in. And then he eventually left and like ran off and went to like someone else's apartment.
Fucking terrorized someone else.
Yeah, he did. and she called the police and everything and ended up moving out of the apartment. But yeah, that's what our stories are about today. Mine is an unsuccessful one, but yeah, it was just hearing that from someone that I know. It's just like, it really does make you think about what you would do in that situation, or what you think you might do, but what you actually do.
I remember once I was in bed with an ex-boyfriend, and we had a really small room, so like everything was just fucking shoved like everywhere. Like, you know, you try and like hide stuff, like put stuff under the bed or down the side of the wardrobe or just anywhere so that it's not in the way. I had a suitcase that was down the side of the wardrobe, and in the middle of the night it fell out. I woke up and was like, ah! And my boyfriend at the time was like laughing at me, being like, I can't believe you shit yourself. I was like, fuck you, that is so scary.
Yeah, terrifying.
Also, thanks for the help against the killer suitcase.
Yeah, what'd you do? Just lie there? Like, now I know what you're gonna do when something bad happens.
Now I know who I can't rely on in the case of someone throwing a suitcase at me in the middle of the night. Right. Okay, so my story is about the Beast of Jersey.
Okay.
Have you heard it?
It sounds familiar. I think I might know it.
So I've like known about it for a really long time, but it's so fucking shit scary. The pictures that go with it, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is fucking shit you up territory.
It's also like Jersey is really quiet and nice and lovely. So
tiny
you don't.
As
yeah,
well.
it's tiny, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So just to explain, Jersey for the people that don't know it. So Jersey is the largest of the Channel Islands. So it's in between France and England. And it's really near the northwest coast of France, like Normandy. It's only like 14 miles away from Normandy. So it has a lot of French residents and a lot of place names that are French, and it's self-governing, but it's a British Crown dependency. So they speak English, they use the pound, they have English TV and newspapers, they drive on the left. It basically kind of belongs to England, even though... So it's a bit like Canada, I suppose. France. Yeah. Even though it's closer to France, and it totally should be French, it's very English. I was going to bore you with how that happened, but actually this is a really long story, and if you are interested in history like I am, then you can Google it.
Yeah, do it. It is interesting. How long does it take to get from England to Jersey? Like, probably you have to take a ferry, right?
Yeah, you take a ferry. I think they might have an airport, tiny airport, but you take a ferry, and it takes about 8 hours maybe.
Oh, wow.
But so, ferries aren't the fastest thing. But yeah,
that's true.
It's 14 miles off of the coast of France. So it's basically France. It's like maybe like 100 miles from England, but it's like 14 miles from France. But we're still like, mine.
I feel like England and Ireland, or Wales and Ireland, are closer, because it would, on the ferry, it would only take like 6 hours to get from Wales to Ireland. So yeah, it's funny that Jersey is still part of England when it's further from England than Ireland is.
We are so stuck up our own arse, though. We're like, that bit of the world is mine, that bit of the world is mine.
Mine.
It really isn't. We're like, nah, it is. We're going to stick a red postbox there, so it's basically ours.
Yeah.
So, okay, right. So this story starts in November 1957. So there's no names. I got a lot of my information from obviously Wikipedia, and then another true crime podcast, which I will credit in the notes because I've forgotten the name of it. But there's no names in this, but to be honest, like, you don't really need to know the victims' names. What happened to them was really horrible. So they probably are still alive, so they're probably not fucking interested in their names being in the public.
That's true. We will hold space for them either way.
Yeah. So a 29-year-old nurse was waiting for the bus when she was approached by a man. Now this, it's fucking terrifying off the bat, right? She's approached by a man wearing a white rubber mask with eye holes cut in it.
What?
So it looks like the mask that he wears in the film Halloween. Like Michael Myers. Like that's what the mask
No.
looks like, but almost like a mix between that and Leatherface. It's like a shit. It's like a shitty Michael Myers mask. It's so scary.
You're standing at the bus stop. You see this man coming towards you. You're like,
Oh
please
God.
don't look at me. Please have nothing to do with me. Please just walk past. Like, you already know this person is coming before
I mean, why are you wearing that mask? No, for no good reason.
Right.
Obviously. And
Yeah.
she's on her own. Like,
Yeah.
fuck me, you would just shit yourself. So basically he grabs her, he drags her into a field, and he sexually assaults her. But he speaks with an Irish accent, which is obviously
Okay.
a bit different for Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah.
She managed to get away, but she needed stitches for her injuries after the attack, so it was a pretty savage attack, and no one was caught for the crime. But obviously she can't give a description because he's got a fucking mask on. So then on March the 20th the next year in 1958, a 20-year-old woman was also just departing a bus stop, and she was approached by the same man as described in the first attack, but this time he put a rope around her neck, dragged her into a field and raped her. But again, she managed to get away, but the attacker remained at large. Just to warn you, there's a lot of attacks coming up. Like, he's prolific.
Okay.
Then just 4 months later, in July of that year, a 31-year-old woman was walking home from a bus stop, had a rope put around her neck, and she was also dragged into a field and raped. The attacks then got more frequent. Yeah, so he's just doing the same thing every fucking time. Like, nobody, like, you can't help it if you need to get a bus somewhere.
Right. What can you do other than have someone with you?
Or have a fucking knife with you or something. Like,
right.
I don't know. And even then, like, he's got a fucking rope and he just comes up behind you. But so yeah, she was attacked, and then after that the attacks got more frequent, and in the next month, which was the August, the same happened to a really young girl walking home, so I believe she was like under 16. Aww. And then the attacks quietened down until the October of 1959, when a 28-year-old woman was attacked in the same way. She, however, fought back so hard that the attacker ran away and gave up. So he's not like...
Good job.
He can be scared off, basically. By the next year in 1960, the attacks had escalated. So he started attacking people in their homes at night. And on February the 14th, he climbed through the window of a 12-year-old boy while he was sleeping, put a rope around his neck, took him outside and sexually assaulted him. So
what the hell?
So he basically started moving on to fucking children. The next month, in March 1960, a 25-year-old woman was waiting at a bus stop in the dark when a man in a Rover car, just for the people who care what kind of car it was, stopped to offer her a lift. He said he was a doctor and he was on the way to pick up his wife. So, but like, you know, Jersey's a really fucking small town.
Yeah.
So she's just like, okay, instead of waiting at this
And what year is this?
1960. People are hitchhiking,
this happened all the time.
Yeah. It seems mental now, but I'm sure then it wasn't as mad as it seems now. So he said that he was a doctor and he was on the way to pick up his wife. She said that she couldn't really make out his face too well because it was really dark, but she reported that he was wearing a cap and a duffel coat. He ended up driving into a field and he punched her to overpower her, and he threatened to kill her if she didn't comply, and then he tied her hands behind her head. He then dragged her out of the car and raped her in the field. He then placed her back in the car and started driving again. But during this, she managed to escape and scream for help. But by the time someone heard her and found her, her attacker was gone. So this was in March 1960. And in the same month, the attacker struck again. He invaded a remote cottage where a 43-year-old woman lived with her 14-year-old daughter. This is awful, right? What? So this is like a horror film. So the phone was ringing at midnight. So the woman goes downstairs to answer it, because obviously it's 1960, so you've just got a house phone downstairs and that's it.
Right.
By the time she picked it up, all she could hear is just the dial tone. So she was like, okay, whatever. So she went back to bed and then forgot about it and fell back asleep. And then about an hour later, she was woken up again by a noise downstairs. So she turned the lights on and went downstairs to investigate. But when she got to the bottom of the stairs, the lights went out. She panicked and went. I know, honestly, it's so scary. She panicked and went to reach for the phone to call the police, but it had been disconnected. So, like, she picked it up and there was no dial tone.
This is like a movie.
It is like a fucking horror movie. Then a man grabbed her violently and said that he would kill her if she didn't give him some money. So all of this had woken up her daughter, who came downstairs. This startled the man, and he ran away from the house. So she was like,
good.
Yeah, so nothing happened. But then, so the 43-year-old woman ran to a nearby farmhouse for help because obviously her phone lines have been cut. She hasn't got a phone, no one can help her. But then, by the time she got back to her cottage, she found her 14-year-old daughter alive, but she'd been brutally raped.
Oh.
I would probably have taken my daughter with me.
Yeah, but if you're like, you stay here, like, it's safe in the house, maybe, or you're just trying to rush. I'll only be a minute.
He'd ran outside, so maybe she thought, fuck, he could be out there.
Yeah.
Right. It's just nightmare fuel. And then in the next month, April 1960, the attacker snuck into a 14-year-old girl's room, and she woke up to find him at the end of her bed in a white mask. No. This
is horror movie.
And when I'll post the pictures of him, and it's like looking at your worst nightmare. So, but luckily she screamed really fucking loudly, and he took off. So
good.
He's like easily startled, it seems. So 3 months later, in July of 1960, the attacker took an 8-year-old boy from his bedroom, sexually assaulted him, and then took him back home and left him on the doorstep.
This guy is just on a rampage.
And his victims, they range from like 8-year-old boys and girls to like grown women.
45-year-old women, yeah.
It's like the only people that are safe is men in this
unfortunately.
Situation. Again. So, just preying on the weak, basically, in his eyes.
It's true.
So, it took another 6 months for the next attack to happen. And in February 1961, an 11-year-old boy was abducted from his house and raped. And again, in the next month, an 11-year-old girl was also brutally raped.
Wow.
So this has been 3 years.
I'd have like 6 dogs.
With knives sellotaped to them, as detailed in My Favorite Murder. Take knives to your dogs. So after 3 years of these attacks, the Jersey police realised that they weren't going to catch him without some help. And the whole of the island was just fucking petrified that they're going to be next, with good reason.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, fucking no one's safe by the sounds of things. And also, like, he's going into kids' rooms and not waking up their parents. So it's not even if, like, your parents can help you, which is really fucking scary.
It's terrifying.
So, like, unless you sleep in your parents' room until this fucking maniac is caught.
I would have.
I mean, I fucking would have and all, but what's your options?
Yeah.
Like, it's the 60s. Your parents are like, get on with it.
Like, yeah, that's true. Less sympathy back then.
Yeah, I think so. So basically, a guy called Detective Superintendent Jack Mannings came to the island, and he was from Scotland Yard in London. And he started by releasing every fact about the perpetrator's mannerisms and appearance to the residents of Jersey, so that they could help locate the attacker. So, I mean, it makes sense because it's a tiny island. He seems to know where people live and who to attack. He's not just like breaking into random rooms. Like, go on, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say at that time that wasn't really a thing that police did. So he was kind of ahead of his time. Like my story's in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And it was before, like Mindhunter, where they started looking at killers and looking at their mannerisms and looking at their what they repeatedly did. this guy, the detective, is releasing information on like this guy's mannerisms, and yeah, it's just he was kind of ahead of his time, because there would be murders and police would be like, well, it just keeps happening, don't know
Yeah.
why, it's a
Yeah,
man, and that's it.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're completely right.
Yeah.
So this is what he put out. He said, "The beast," in quotes, "always strikes at night, and only on moonlit weekends between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. I guess I'm spending every weekend in a locked box then.
Yes.
He appears to have an intimate knowledge of the island, particularly the eastern areas. He's described as being about 40 to 45 years old, about 5'6" tall, with a mustache and of medium build. He is usually described as wearing a low, thigh-length jacket or raincoat, which gives off a distinctive musty smell. I used to have a hunter jacket, and they do smell musty. So it's probably that kind of thing.
Why did you have a hunter jacket?
I found it in the crack den, and I was like, mine.
This is warm.
Yeah, this is free. His face is always covered, either with a face mask or a scarf covering to the lower part of it. He carries a torch with him during the attacks, and his methods follow a distinct pattern. His victims were selected carefully, and the usual method of entry is a bedroom window. Once inside, the man is fast and silent, and usually blindfolds and ties up his victims' hands. In each case, a rope is placed around the victims' necks, and they're taken into a field nearby and suffer a sexual assault, then returned home. The assailant apparently speaks a lot during his attacks, with a voice that was described as soft and in an Irish accent. He had mentioned at various times during attacks that he had a wife, and that he had a dead mother who died of drink, so died of alcoholism.
What a random thing to talk about while you're sexually assaulting someone.
Chatty fella.
Yeah.
And he also said that he killed people before, and that he often made a point of saying that he'd dropped either his cigarettes or his lighter. Jersey is not a large island. It's only less than 46 square miles in total, and it stands to reason that someone would have known, or at least suspected, somebody who matched at least part of this description. I mean, that is quite specific.
It is.
5'6", between 40 and 45.
How many people with an Irish accent? How many men with a wife?
Yeah.
Who smokes? Although that was everyone did that in the 60s.
Yeah, but that's pretty good info, I think.
Yeah.
But this is like the fucking Jack the Ripper.
Right.
Sorry, not Jack the Ripper. The Yorkshire Ripper, where they had so much information, and they just couldn't get it together. Mm-hmm. So Jack Manning interviewed any man with a criminal record that was on the island. They still couldn't find the offender. However, either by coincidence or through a fear of being caught, the attacker didn't strike again for 2 years after that. So Jack Manning goes home. And then, in April 1963, a 9-year-old boy is attacked with the same MO as the Beast of Jersey.
Oh, no.
And then he struck again in November of the same year, and that was an 11-year-old boy. So then things go quiet until the next year. July 1964, when a 10-year-old girl was raped in the night, and the following month in August, a 16-year-old boy was also raped. So that's fucking 4 children in a year and a half that are being fucking taken in the middle of the night and raped, which is one of the most horrifying things you can imagine.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, in 1966, the Jersey police received a letter, and this was allegedly from the Beast of Jersey, and it read, "My dear sir, I think that it is just the time to tell you that you are just wasting your time, as every time I have done what I always intended to do, what spelt wrong, and I will not stop at this. But I will be fair to you and give you a chance. I never had much out of this life, but I intend to give everything I can now. I have always wanted to do the perfect crime. I have done this, but this time let the moon shine very bright in September, because this time it must be perfect. Not one, but 2. I am a maniac by a long shot, but I like to play with people. You will hear me before September and I will give you all the clues. Just see if you can catch me. Yours very sincerely, Wait and See.
That is so creepy.
What a nutter.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking nutbag letter to write. And he spelt shitloads of stuff wrong as well. He spelt bright, Britte.
You reading it, it sounded eloquent.
Yeah. It doesn't make any
Otherwise,
sense. Like, really?
no.
Like,
yeah.
he's like, I have never,
It's
like,
dramatic.
I have never had much out of this life, but I intend to get everything I can now. Oh, just shut up. So,
yeah.
The police weren't sure that the letter was genuine and it wasn't made public, which I kind of think it should have been. But then, again, all sorts of maniacs write to the police and are like, I did a crime, and they never did.
That's very true.
It could be a huge red herring. It could be a huge waste of everybody's time.
Yeah.
And they
if
only
it
got
wasn't
one.
made public, though, it was probably because there are some things in there that include details that would only be, talking about September or 2 times in September. Like, those are details that if you didn't release to the public and then something happened in September, you could very easily connect it to that person.
Yeah. So that did happen, basically. There was an attack on a 15-year-old girl in September, which was detailed
When you
in the
just
letter.
warn everyone, like, hey, this
Go on
September, go on holiday, get 17 dogs, buy 6 guns.
Cover your window in glass, like broken up glass on every single fucking centimeter of your window. Like,
keep all the lights on in and around your house at all times.
Get a huge fucker dog. Get a Rottweiler. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, the MO was exactly the same as the previous attacks, but it gets even creepier, right? Because this time the girl also suffered long scratches down her torso that were regularly spaced and even. So fuck knows what he's up to now. But then after this, the attack stopped for 4 more years. So like everybody keeps thinking they're safe, and then he just pops up again. So in 1970, the beast was back and he chose to sexually assault a 13-year-old boy. So according to his usual MO, he woke the boy in the middle of the night and took him to a field. The attacker laid his raincoat down on the ground, his musty raincoat, and made the boy undress. He assaulted him and then led him back to his room. And it wasn't until 8 a.m. the next morning that the boy raised the alarm, because the attacker told him that if he did say anything, his mum and dad would be hurt.
Aww.
So he just like went back to bed. Like,
poor kid.
Scared. He must have been fucking petrified. So despite being very distressed, the boy managed to give a good description of his attacker. And he said that he had black spiky hair and an extremely scary white mask on. So that's fucking hideous. He also had scratches on his body like the girl before. And after this attack, nearly all the residents of Jersey who could be responsible for the attack were interviewed, but nothing came of it.
What?
So this is where motherfucker gets caught. So you can get ready to be a bit more satisfied. So
yes,
on the 10th of July 1971, 2 police officers started their night shift. At around midnight, they pulled up some traffic lights, and then a car flew past them running the red light. They started chasing it, and this went on for several miles at very high speed. The car was driving down pedestrian streets in an attempt to dodge the police, but they managed to keep up with him, and he eventually crashed into a field. He then ran out of his car, and the officers ran after him, and one of them took him down with a rugby tackle. Yes.
Wow. Good job.
Good job. So he struggled violently, but they managed to subdue him and took him to the station. So when they got him back to the station and they were in the light, they noticed that he was wearing a raincoat and he fucking smelt really musty. So they were like, oh no. On the shoulders.
Does he have an Irish accent?
Well, you'll see, my friend. On the shoulders, this is fucking weird. On the shoulders and collars of it, the man had placed 1-inch nails sticking out sharp side up.
What?
So, and he was also wearing wristbands with the nails sticking out of them on both arms.
Okay.
His trousers were tucked into his socks, and he was wearing slippers and woolen gloves.
Slippers?
Yeah. No wonder you couldn't outrun the police, you dickhead.
Yeah.
Slippers in a muddy field. Are you mad?
Right.
So, upon seeing this bizarre get-up, they decided to search him.
Mm-hmm.
So, in his pockets, they found just like fucking murder kit. Classic murder. Like, why would you have this unless you were murdering people? So, in his pockets, they found a torch with black tape on it so that it only emitted a slit of light. So he'd like taped it up so it only had like a little bit of light coming out of it.
Like a tiny little spotlight,
Yeah, like 2 lengths of rope, a peaked woolen cap, rolls of duct tape, a black spiky wig, and a horrifying white mask.
Okay. This is
you're
like
back to rights.
Scooby-Doo.
Really
This is Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Like, empty your pockets. A white mask.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any coincidence as to why you have this fashion item? So they asked him why the fuck are you dressed like this, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I was on my way to an orgy and I borrowed a car to get there so no one would recognise me. And the nails that I've got on my jacket, they're to defend me against attackers.
Oh my gosh.
They were like, okay. What
I'm
about
sorry,
the wig?
I can't get over the slippers.
I know.
I'm on my way to an orgy. I've got my slippers on.
Quick to get on and off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then they said, well, what about the mask and the wig then? Like, what fucking purpose does that serve you at an orgy?
Orgy, obviously.
He refused to say anything about those. He was like, I'm not, no comment. So he was arrested and detained by the police, obviously, and they searched his home. They found a secret locked room, which contained more musty coats, which is like literally how it was described. Like, more musty coats.
Wow.
Homemade wigs and hats and fake eyebrows. Yeah. They also found books on the occult and an altar of sorts with a huge curved sword on it. So he's like some sort of
man?
Some fucking loser devil worshipper. Right, so it turns out the name of the man is 46-year-old Edward Paisnell. So he was born in 1925 in Jersey to a rich family, and he worked as a builder. He was married to a woman named Joan in 1959, who he met while he was acting as a handyman at a children's home that she worked at. Never trust the handyman at the children's home. That would be my advice.
Aww.
So the children knew him as Uncle Ted, and he dressed up as Santa Claus every year for them.
Terrifying.
Fucking nonce. Always volunteers to dress up as Santa.
This is a movie. This is a movie.
I know, right? I swear. I've fucking seen it. But he had a daughter with Joan and 2 stepchildren who I assume like Joan had before. So basically, the reason that he'd slipped through the net was he had no criminal record, apart from when he served a month's imprisonment during the German occupation of the island in the Second World War because he was stealing food to distribute to starving families.
Well, what a great guy.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, he has got a record. Oh, it was to feed the poor. Like, let's let that go. So that's how he got away with that. And then apparently his marriage wasn't too happy and the couple argued a lot. She said sexually he was normal and even had a low libido, but unbeknownst to her, he had a mistress.
What?
That's why he never wanted to have sex with her, because he had a bit on the side. Him and Joan ended up having a daughter together, but after this they separated, but they still remained married. And he built an annex on the house they lived in, and then he lived in the annex by himself until he was caught. So he's got his creepy fucking secret room annex with musty coats and wigs and Satan altars.
I mean,
never let your husband have an annex.
These days, that wouldn't fly. But back then, when men could be like, mind your own business, wife. Get back to the kitchen. You couldn't do it. I'm going out. That's it. No explanation. Like, it happened back then. Yeah.
When will you be back? Door slams.
Right.
Yeah. So apparently people on the island, they knew him. He was well known, and they knew him as a kind man who was good with children. So that's horrifying again.
Yeah. Well, on top of all that, he stole food to feed the poor. So even if you were looking around for some guy who was doing all these things, you'd be like, not this guy, not Uncle
Teddy.
Ted. Yeah.
Not Ted, he dresses up as Santa for the fucking orphan kids.
Right. Yeah.
So he's got the perfect cover, basically. He's like hiding in plain sight. So he was eventually charged with 13 counts, including rape, indecent assault, and sodomy against 6 victims, with all but one being a minor. His trial was in November 1971, and he offered no explanation as to why he carried out any of the attacks.
What?
He gave cryptic answers, referred to the occult and black magic, or told the police to prove it was him. Well, we will. Thanks very much.
Dude.
Like,
yeah.
I will easily prove it was you. So, because it also turned out that in his little secret room, he had a camera, and on that camera, he had photographed houses that he had earmarked as targets to attack children.
What?
Sometimes years in advance. So that's how he knew how to get into the house and stuff, because he knew which room was which.
That's what I find the most creepy. You don't know who's watching your house.
I know, right? It's like Israel Keyes stalked people like before he killed them.
Yeah.
That actually does make me shit myself a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
So it also came out that he was just one of the 13 men who refused to give fingerprints during the search of the residence.
Okay.
A 5'6" man in his early 40s refuses to give me fingerprints. For me, that would ring a few more bells. Then fair enough. Don't bother then.
For the police, 13 men don't want to give you fingerprints. Okay, watch those 13
I'm
men.
looking in
That's
on
not
you.
that many.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Because obviously you fucking ruled out all the other ones. They're
Nobody
the only
else.
ones you haven't ruled out. Think of this like a game of Guess Who.
Yeah.
All of the other guys who gave fingerprints, you've flapped them down. You've only got 13 faces remaining.
One's in their 40s. A couple of them are in their 40s.
Is he 5'6"?
Is he 5'6"? No? Okay, he's down.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking hell, we can all play Guess Who. On the 29th of November 1971, the jury took 38 minutes to find him guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment. So then a year later, his wife Joan Paisnell wrote a book called The Beast of Jersey about him.
What? I don't know how
I feel about that.
Yeah.
Maybe she needed the money. Kind of tempted to read it. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a bit soon. And you're his wife. By the way, he was released after serving just 19 years.
What?
So he was released in 1991 after being a model prisoner. And he was returned to he was returned to Jersey. However,
I don't care if you're a model prisoner.
Well,
I don't care.
There's no kids or women to rape in prison, so I'm sure you could behave yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, however, the local feeling was so strong, the people that were there still remembered this reign of terror.
Of course, yeah.
And so eventually they were like, get the fuck out. And he moved to the Isle of Wight, which is a lot closer to England, but still an island just off England.
Another tiny island.
Yeah, where he died of a heart attack in 1994. You, sir, may fuck off to the depths of hell, like where you remain, I'm sure, to this day.
Oh, you can stay there.
Yeah, and that is the story of Edward Paisnell, the Beast of Jersey.
Wow, so many twists and turns. Slippers. His wife writes a book.
Orgies.
He wears a mask. Orgies.
What a stupid way to get caught. And also, it kind of annoys me that like the police did fuck all in terms of catching him. Like,
yeah,
he got caught on a technicality. Like, they got lucky.
It's like, oh, women and children.
Weaker... you keep safe. Like, if you just follow the rules. Like, don't go out at night, then you won't get raped. Like,
yeah, thanks.
Anyway. My piss is like boiling, so let's just move on to your story.
I'm interested in his wife though, because she's probably still alive, and his child and stepchildren. Yeah. They're probably still alive. Why did she write a book so soon? I want to know more about that.
I will find out more about that for you, and I will
watch this
tell you about it.
Well, my story is much shorter because my mouth hurts and I may be reading shorter
Oh.
stories for the next while.
That's okay. I can bore you silly with mine.
No,
problem.
that definitely wasn't boring.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, crazy. But okay, so my story takes place in the late 70s in Texas. So let's just get straight into it. I'm not going to tell you the title of it because it kind of gives away what happens.
Okay.
So it's Houston, Texas, July 1979. Alice Elaine Rankin lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment in the Orchard Park Apartments, which were in the southwest part of Houston. And I was looking it up today, and I think it was more of the cheaper side of Houston.
Okay.
So Alice was a 33-year-old secretary at an engineering firm. She'd just finished work, and her co-worker, Bob Smith, had dropped her off at home as Alice's car was in the shop. So there's little known of what actually happened that night, but when Bob Smith came to pick her up in the morning for work, he found her front door ajar. He pushed the door open, and he entered the apartment looking for Alice. When he entered the bedroom, and fast forward, if you don't like gruesome things, he entered the bedroom. He saw Alice's body, nude, lying in her bed. There was blood around her. Her feet were bound, and a pillow was covering her upper body. He went over to her to see if she was okay, and he moved the pillow, and he found that her head was missing.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. He immediately called the police, who rushed to the scene.
There must have
There's
been
a
a
little
lot
bit
of
more
blood
of that.
there.
Yeah. But still, like, if you're in that situation, you're like, oh my God, let me see if she's okay, you know, and then you look.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
you're like,
you might.
nope.
Yeah, I guess hope for the best.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of adrenaline, lots of not knowing. So investigators found that Alice had been sexually assaulted. Looking further, they found a clear blood trail that showed that the head was placed on the floor on the side of the bed, and then it was carried to the parking lot where it was presumably placed in the killer's car and taken away. So there was a clear blood trail. Yeah.
Fuck me.
To this day, it's never been found.
No.
Yeah. And there's more of this. So if you don't like this story so far, then you might not want to listen to the rest of it.
This is a particularly savage episode.
Yes.
I must say.
It is. Home invasions are savage in general. They're everyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yep.
So investigators found a butcher knife from Alice's kitchen that was used for the attack. So news of the murder spread around Houston. At that time in the late 70s, Houston was a popular town for young people, with the oil boom offering many jobs and inexpensive apartment complexes popping up all around the city. So there's all kinds of young people. Like, it seemed like a really up-and-coming town. There's your mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. God, I didn't even see you there.
That's a little bit creepy.
Talk about home invasion. I can shat myself.
I just saw a shadow behind you.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice. I'm so gonna get attacked. Oh, I need to be more on my guard. Damn it.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
If anything happened to Talicza, I'd warn you straight away just in that situation.
You can't help, you're in LA. Anyway, go on.
Okay.
Speaking of my dead ass.
So up until this point, Houston felt pretty safe, but after the murder, people became wary of the safety of their apartments, taking extra precautions like buying firearms. So the sale of firearms went up, and they were just making sure.
In Texas, don't you like get that with your fucking as a side at McDonald's or whatever?
I don't know. I mean, back in the late 70s, I don't know what Texas was like. And like a city was a little bit more, I don't want to say liberal, but like, I don't know what the gun issues were like then.
To be fair, if I just found out that somebody in my neighborhood had their head cut off, I probably would be buying as many guns as I could afford.
Well, 2 weeks later, in the same apartment, the same block of apartments,
Nope.
2 floors above where Alice Elaine Rankin was murdered, another woman was attacked.
Nope.
Yep.
Burn the building down.
Unfortunately. Yeah, everyone move out. I don't
See
care. Yeah. So 27-year-old Mary Michael Calcutta, she also lived alone. She was the middle child in a family of 6. So also with Alice Rankin, I couldn't really find much about her background, but I wanted to include a little bit more about Mary Calcutta because there was more information about her. So she was the middle child in a family of 6, and she was from Pittsburgh. She moved to Houston a few years before when she visited a friend, and she fell in love with the city. After the first attack on her neighbor in July, Mary went to stay with a friend for a week. So she did the normal thing. She was like, I'm really freaked out. Someone 2 floors below me, their head was cut off. Can I stay with you for a week and just like
I mean, what else?
recoup?
Like, yeah, I mean, like, you can't put your life on hold forever, I guess.
Yeah. In the few days before her attack, Mary had returned to her apartment, attempting to get back to normal life, like you just said, like you would do. On the phone to a friend, she told them that she pushed a bookcase in front of the door, saying that she would never open the door to a stranger. So she was...
What else could she have done? Like...
Yeah, right. What else could you do? You don't want to keep putting your friends out by saying, like, can I stay on your couch tonight? You want to go home, you want to get back to normal life, but you're terrified. What are you going to do?
Poor girl.
Yeah. So on August 10th, a male friend who said he came to visit Mary discovered her home had been invaded. He came inside and he found her dead on the bathroom floor. She had been stabbed several times from a butcher knife from her kitchen, same MO, and police again were called to investigate. They found that she had been sexually assaulted, but they said that she put up a huge fight. She fought hard. So one of the detectives, Jim Binford, who was a homicide investigator for the Houston PD, he said, Mary Calcutta died harder than any murdered woman I have ever worked. She fought her killer from the front door until she couldn't fight him anymore. He stabbed her with such force that it went all the way through her and it bent the blade. So she fought like hell.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, police could come up with no leads. At first, they thought the murder of Mary was connected to the man who discovered her so-called boyfriend. However, he was cleared almost immediately. At the same time, so that weekend, there were 17 homicides in Houston alone on the weekend of Mary's murder. Yeah. And even though they connected the 2 murders, so Alice and Mary, saying that it was the work of the same person, they still had very little leads. They didn't have DNA. They didn't have fingerprints. An article that I was reading was like, this was before they had CODIS or FBI profiling or anything like that. So nobody was really making connections or finding anything. So
the golden age of serial killers.
Yeah. And with the crime in Houston, it was a lot that summer. So both of those cases went cold fairly quickly.
God, like you would have thought that somebody would have fucking seen someone in the building. Like you would have thought people would have been on alert. How did they get in? Any kind
of witness. Although if you think about it, like if you're thinking like everyone else, I'm not staying in this apartment. Maybe the apartment was fairly empty when Mary went back home.
Yeah, good point.
So Mary's brother Fran and her dad Jim went to Houston to tend to their sister's belongings and clean her apartment. Jim, her dad, offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
Go Jim.
Both her parents continued to keep in contact with the Houston PD for the next 25 years, hoping for a lead to who killed Mary. But nothing was found. Both cases are still cold.
No! I hate this!
Police believe... I know. There's a little bit more, though. So police believe
Yeah.
that these were not the only murders that the killer had committed. I mean, this sounds like you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you
So
fucking cut a head off and take it with you. You fucking maniac.
yeah, exactly. So on the same day that Mary Calcutta's body was found, another body of a woman was found in a townhouse in the northwest part of Houston. The body of 26-year-old Doris Lynn Threadgill was found by an exterminator, where police said she had been stabbed so brutally that her head was nearly removed from her body. So that's one similar case. 2 months later, and only 5 blocks away from Doris's home, in October 1979, police were called when neighbors heard a woman's screams and gunshots. When the police arrived, so it was nighttime,
Yeah.
the neighbors said that they saw a woman and a man in a cap struggling on the front porch of a home. They saw the man drag the woman by her hair, and the woman screamed, "Help, don't do this to me," and then a gunshot. So
No
the
one's
police
helping
were
then.
there. Yeah. What I mean,
Just
wouldn't you
watching
like
that, are ya?
run? Yeah.
Fucking out.
I can only imagine it was like an old lady and she was like, "I'm going to call the police. What can I do?"
Oh, I guess, but man.
So it was nighttime and the police went to the porch and they couldn't find any blood because it was night. And then they told the neighbor that she probably, or they, I'm just assuming it's an old lady, but they told the neighbor that they probably mistook the gunshot noise for firecrackers. And the police just left.
That's a bit of a leap.
Yeah.
That sounds like lazy policing.
Well, yeah, a lady's just been attacked. An eyewitness sees someone get dragged away by their hair. Just
and
firecrackers.
Then she's just fucking celebrating her escape with firecrackers, is she?
Yeah.
Like, fucking coinky dink.
Right.
No, I'm pretty sure it was a gun.
Yeah. So, however, when detectives arrived later in the morning, they found blood on the porch.
Oh,
And
use
then-
a torch. You fucking
Yeah.
useless pricks.
And then the body of 16-year-old Joanne Hoffman was found in Watauga Park, nearly 4 miles away. She had been shot to death. Not far from there, Houston PD were called to a used car lot where a white Dodge was found with blood smeared across it. When the police opened the trunk, or the boot, as you say in England.
As is style in here, in England, yes.
Yeah. So they opened the trunk. They discovered the body of 18-year-old Robert Spangenberger. That's really hard to say with this thing in my mouth.
God. So this is a guy this time.
It's a guy, and he was Joanne, the 16-year-old who had been shot. He was her boyfriend.
Whoa.
Yeah. And his body was in the car, but he had no head.
Oh, for fuck's sake. No more heads
Yeah.
for
So,
you, whoever you are.
His head has never been found either.
No.
All of these cases have never been solved, and the missing heads have never been found, as I just mentioned.
Well, fucking slow clap for fucking Houston in the
Houston
60s.
PD. 70s. Yeah.
Oh, dear. It's just... Well, I guess this is just this episode will probably just be called Police Who Don't Know What the Fuck They're Doing.
Oh. Yeah, police in the 60s and 70s, they really didn't have, like I said, like there was no like FBI profiling. There was no, even DNA or fingerprinting wasn't a huge thing. But yeah, so this last little bit, while some believe that the murders may not be connected, they don't know if the attack on Doris Threadgill was connected to the rest of the murders, that specific one. But others believe that these cold cases could be connected to the same murderer. And that is the story of the Houston Decapitator.
Oh my God. Well, I hope there's some sort of familial DNA, like the old Golden State Killer that like gets him at some point.
I really hope so.
What a dangerous man.
Yeah.
So fucking dangerous.
And he could
now?
still be floating around.
That is...
Who knows?
Where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, grim.
Yeah.
So grim. Well,
Home
wherever you
invasions,
are,
hey?
wherever you are, I hope your fucking dick fell off from horrible syphilis at some point. You scourge upon this earth.
Oh man, terrifying though. Both stories are terrifying.
Yeah, home invasion stuff shits me up because like you can't control what happened, who's on the street with you, but you can fucking lock your doors and windows and stuff and just pray that nobody comes in and attacks you. And like, what happens when that happens? Like, you're supposed to feel safe at home, and then it's just ruined.
Learn jujitsu, get 7 dogs.
Knives taped to the windows.
Yeah.
Anything. I can't believe I haven't told you this. I think I may have, but my stepdad once like Vaselined the windowsills. And I was like,
really?
You are so overreacting. I don't think that anymore.
No, I agree with it. Wait, what is that going to do?
People try and get onto your window, or like they'll just slip off.
Oh.
So lube up those windows, people. On that note.
On that note,
on that bombshell.
Advice from Talicza's stepdad. I think we can say goodbye.
Yeah. Get your tubs of industrial use Vaseline, everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.